We're going to talk about what happened to Emily Armstrong's mom in Scientology in the Sea Org. And if you have grandkids or younger kids who are into Sabrina Carpenter, we might have some disappointing news for you. Hey, everybody, welcome. I'm Natalie, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult. Welcome to everybody in the live chat. Good to see you. Good to see the members as well. Huge thank you to the mods helping out today. We have so much to cover today. We are going to jump right into it, and we are going to start with a little story from actor Christian Bale. Have you guys seen the movie? It's kind of a cult classic, American Psycho. That one, do you remember that movie he did where he was like the serial killer and he was this clean cut, businessman, and then behind the scenes, which is what was really going on? Did you know who the inspiration was for that character, for the real American Psycho? You might have guessed. Tom Cruise. Let's take a look.
The cheek-to-cheek smile combined with the empty, soulless eyes, the attention to detail, the perfect hair, the perfect jawline, the perfect appearance. This is just a facade to convince the world he is this successful, happy-go-lucky guy who is actually extremely disturbed and thinks about harming others 24/7. This is what a psychopath looks like. But this is a fictional character played by actor Christian Bale in the movie American Psycho. And Bale said that the inspiration for this character was the real-life Tom Cruise, whose empty laugh, intensity, and robotic physical movements are on full display in this 1996 interview with Rosie O'Donnell.
Because you saw her in Dead Calm, right?
Yes.
And you thought, I like her.
Yeah, I think she's very talented.
Yeah, she is talented. The new movie's supposed to be great.
Yeah, she's extraordinary.
She's coming on the show.
I know, she's
just a couple days, yeah.
The cheek-to-cheek
telling you that creepy laugh sometimes, but I'm not surprised by that. Are any of you surprised by that was the inspiration or that Christian Bale used to really develop that character? I'm not surprised. I remember watching the movie and thinking, whoa, this is like, it's dark, but it's fascinating at the same time. And that really connected some dots for me once I found out where the inspiration for that came from. Good morning, everybody who's jumping in here. Okay, so now let's take a look. Let's jump over to some Lara FM. Lara was out letting people know what's what about Scientology. I think she was protesting in Utah. She had a show out there, and I love when Lara talks to people out on the street, letting them know the truth about Scientology and her own experience.
We're protesting against Scientology. I was born and raised in it. I was a slave child. Yeah. I just don't know. Like, some people come to literally poke and but nobody here has done it. So I was like, oh, are these our first ones? You guys are really asking.
On your site, we just were wondering. So it's your lived experience.
Yep, literally. My mom and dad are in the organization. They've been in for 50 years plus. They're executives. I was being trained as a child to audit, to be an ethics officer, to run messenger. They basically, the main thing is one of their key points is they do not believe and don't respect or treat children like children. Children are adults in small bodies.
Love it. Love when she's out there sharing her story. All right, let's see now. Let's see. SPTV Gaming Community says Lara had a brunch on Sunday, and tonight she's playing a show for Ladies Night. Oh, cool. Very cool. Where? Is it in Utah or someplace else? Maybe you can put that in the chat. All right, let's now go over to Chicago. You guys, Windy City Thetan Watch once again was on fire. And here's the cool thing. A lot of times we don't get to hear when people like, what is the impact on the students? Because, Scientology Chicago is right next to a college, just like Austin, and there's probably other ones as well. How do the students feel about this? The people out there live streaming, are they getting the message? How are they seeing it? And Windy City Thetan Watch had a college student approach him and let him know.
Excuse me, sir, I have something I'd like to say to you.
Yes?
I'm a Columbia College Chicago student.
It starts off a little, excuse me, sir, I have something I need to say to you. And you're like, oh my gosh, what is he going to say?
Appreciate what you're doing.
I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
if there's any way, so
And if you heard that, but then he says, I really appreciate what you are doing.
if I gave you my email address, sure, I want to find as many people that, if you want to become active, great. If you don't, if you ever see them leaving the org, I would love if you could email me because I want to follow them. They pass this stuff out all over the place.
Jones College Preparatory Schools, right there.
Yep, he knows what's up, and word is spreading amongst the college students for sure. And so we know that Scientology, being they cannot recruit right outside of their organizations, next best thing is they're going to find a fair, a market, anything like that, where they could go ahead and, you know, get people into Scientology and recruit. Check this out. Here we have, notice they're doing Dianetics. Dianetics in red, Dianetic shirts. They are trying to distance themselves from Scientology because Scientology is such a buzzword in the media right now for a multitude of reasons. So they're out there like, ooh, Scientology who? We're Dianetics. We're Scientology's older half-sister. Just as evil, but started a little bit early, fresh off the sex cult that L. Ron Hubbard was in. Yep, that's where we came from. That's the origin story there. So Dianetics, not Scientology. Nobody is falling for that. Nobody is falling for that. And Windy City Satan Watch is not letting anybody fall for it either.
Just so you know, it's Scientology. They're Scientologists. Yeah.
You hear that?
Did you hear? Oh shit. Oh shit.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, see, they don't know. They're hiding behind. A lot of people do not associate Dianetics with Scientology. I mean, a lot do. And many of you might be shocked by hearing that. Like, how do they not know Dianetics is Scientology? Well, they don't. So he's letting them know, even though they're out there. And it doesn't stop there. You're not going to believe the lengths that Scientology went to try and change the narrative of what was happening there at that booth.
Have to take special medicine.
Are you Scientology? Have I told them you're Scientology? So I've been truthful?
Yeah, she's basically complaining to the officer. Officer, he's telling people we're Scientology. He's letting them know. How are we ever going to sell these Dianetics books if people know we're Scientology?
Explain screaming.
It's an open public area, the cop says. So the gist is nothing happened, but that did not stop Scientology from going to the police. I think like 3 times, Wendy, something like that. And each time it's like, well, what is he doing? He's filming in public. He's not getting in anybody's face with his camera. He's just letting people know that that's Scientology. So Scientology is literally complaining to law enforcement for being called Scientology, because that just makes all kinds of sense. That's right, Swedish Lena. Paul is amazing. He's doing great work out there. T, you're so right. So many front groups to get people in. You guys might have seen a notification I put up this morning, Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Central Time, right after tomorrow's recap. I'm going to be doing an interview with T per Scientology audit right afterwards around 11:30 a.m. Central Time. So note that there's already a notification out, so you can go click on notify me, and hopefully you'll get that notification. But keep an eye out for that. Now let's talk about an interview that Aaron at Growing Up in Scientology did with Eric Rader. Many of you might know Eric Rader. He's been out putting up posters exposing Scientology. He grew up in Scientology. He's from a Scientology family, and he sat down to share his story with Aaron at Growing Up in Scientology. Let's take a look at a little clip.
You're doing these courses at Celebrity Center as a kid. Were you in school as well?
No, I quit school to do that full time. I was on, 9 to 6, Monday through Friday. And like, I really was trying to follow in my sister's footsteps to get the same thing, because I just wasn't getting that from my family the way she was getting it. And I thought, okay, but she was a lot smarter than me. I mean, she was literally like locked herself in her room. And when she was on the briefing course, I think she was 13, and wow. Listened to 1,500 tapes or something. It was just ridiculous,
And what he's talking about, the briefing course, that's the St. Hill Special Briefing Course. It is an extensive training lineup in Scientology. And to be at that age and having to do it and do things like that full time in lieu of schooling just makes no sense. And go check out the whole thing. And make sure you head over to Eric Rader as well and subscribe and follow him here on YouTube. Let's now get into this news about Sabrina Carpenter. Now, I got to be honest, I did not know who Sabrina Carpenter was because I'm not her demographic, but my grandchildren maybe. So those of you, if you don't have younger Gen Zs or even millennials, listen up because this is very important. Sabrina Carpenter is a recording artist, and Sloan, who many of you know here on YouTube, I love my Sloan, did a video exposing her ties to Scientology. Turns out she comes from a very big Scientology family with deep, deep ties and deep pockets who have given millions and millions of dollars to Scientology. She is the niece of Nancy Cartwright, who is the voice of Bart Simpson. I totally went blank for a minute there. So check this out. Let's watch a clip from Sloan's video and we will discuss.
Is Sabrina Carpenter your niece?
Yeah. You can't knock me for what it is that I am doing. I am helping. I am striving to be.
Okay, first off, isn't that a little creepy? You can't knock me for what I'm doing. I am helping.
That. God.
If Sabrina's family, like if her and her parents are Scientologists, they have kept it buried and under wraps.
Sabrina Carpenter's aunt is one of the biggest donors to one of the most evil cults out here. This celebrity church has a mission, and now Sabrina Carpenter is the perfect person to be the face of this cult and to bring in all of her young fans. So let's get into it. This headline is giving, I'm working late because I'm a cult member, which I really hope not because I love Sabrina Carpenter, but I do not like Scientology. I whisper the name because I'm genuinely scared of this cult, this church, whatever you want to call it. I've been to several of the locations, one in Hollywood and Florida, and they're no joke.
So here's the thing. He goes into it a bit more. So we're going to look at another clip about the whole thing. T says, Nancy lost her mind a long time ago. She's cooked. You know, there is a lot of truth to that. And I know, Joe, nobody knew. Wow, I didn't know about Sabrina. Wow, no. Now, we're going to look at this next clip. It's still questionable. What does she know? Does she know? Is she a Scientologist or is it just her parents and her aunt, of course, who's given millions and millions? I mean, in 1 year, Nancy Cartwright just got an award, what was it, in 23, for giving something like $21 million to Scientology. I guess, you know, she got that Bart Simpson money and she's giving it all to Scientology, or a lot of it would seem. So let's take a look at another clip because he gets a little deeper into this mystery and these connections.
So I could see Sabrina being smarter than at least not like she's not going to brand herself as a member. This person wrote, yeah, that would kill her career. I think people in their 20s today can see through the cult BS, hence why they're pressuring her to be the new face. The numbers have got to be down. We have way too much information about them and they have disturbing people leading this church. This person wrote, those auditing sessions ruin people. I knew a girl whose parents made her go for years, really messed up her thinking patterns and behavior. When she got angry, it was like a demon inside of her. I despise this cult. This person writes, well, if Sabrina is part of it, it makes sense because she's so down to engage in fake PR orchestrated showman's relationships like Tom Cruise. Sabrina's last 3 boyfriends, the guy from her and Olivia Rodrigo, the Barry guy, and then Shawn Mendes, all people who help her set up her marketing. We do have another blind item from the past that actually suggests this same sentiment. So I could see Sabrina being smarter than at least not like she's not.
So, you know, I think he's right. She's not going to come out and be like, oh my gosh, I'm a Scientologist and I identify that way. I don't know 100% if she's a practicing Scientologist or not herself. It would seem odd being she has such a close relationship with her aunt and by reports her family that how are you not, or how do you at least not know some of the things? It is a very big question. And I think we're going to be hearing more and more about this as more things come out about this story. And it really opens the question of, okay, if you have family members who are in Scientology and you're not a Scientologist and you're a public figure, do you answer the questions about Scientology? You guys tell me, because we're dealing with a couple situations like that, right? We're talking about this Sabrina Carpenter and, of course, Emily Armstrong, which we're going to get into in just a little bit. But many people were really surprised by this, myself included. Sabrina Carpenter has, I mean, she's open for Taylor Swift, has done music with her. I mean, she is a big deal and just becoming even bigger and bigger. So is this an attempt by Scientology to get younger members? Because we've been talking about for a long time here on this channel that Scientology is just drying up in terms of new members. It's just not happening. They are not able to get their second and third generation Scientologists the way they once did. It is no longer just automatically assumed and followed that because you're born into a Scientology family that you're going to walk that path. Definitely not as much today, not with the internet, not with people having the opportunity to learn so much more about what Scientology is really about the history of human rights abuses within Scientology and what is happening today. Sharona, that's funny. Let's see here. Let's check out. Oh gosh, darn it. Somebody had a question there that I was going to pull up and I totally lost it. Mar says, yeah, what a shame she has good music. So I don't know. I think that putting, if her fans reach out and are like, hey, what is the deal? Can you tell us where you stand on this? To me, it's not that different than what we're currently trying to do, which is reaching out to our elected officials here in the United States to find out where they stand on an investigation into Scientology's tax-exempt status. So if you look down in the description of this video, there's a link to SPTV.SPACE with instructions of what you can do to reach out to your elected official and find out from them where they're at on looking into Scientology's tax-exempt status. And where those responses are being tracked. And there's an email address in there that you can CC. So if you get a response, that can be tracked as well. And again, if somebody in your area has already reached out to that person, still reach out, because it's all about the numbers and people putting pressure on our elected officials to investigate Scientology and look into this tax-exempt status. I think it's kind of similar in ways with these celebrities where this is coming out. These deep Scientology connections, this coming from these Scientology families. And I'm looking at this two ways. On one hand, I'm like, okay, is this a Scientology tactic to let support and kind of get this person into mainstream entertainment and whatnot, and then use them to recruit? Or is this a situation of Sabrina and even Emily being born into Scientology, but not then practicing it? And then the third thing is, what about all the questions around it? I do believe that as somebody being a public figure and a celebrity like Emily Armstrong and like Sabrina Carpenter are, that these concerns and questions are valid and that it would be appropriate for them to answer them. So my hope is, as this news continues to spread, different social media platforms are going to be covering it about Sabrina Carpenter, that her fans reach out and do ask about. And at the end of the day, this is still doing wonderful things for exposing Scientology. And let's get on to the Emily Armstrong topic now. Here's the thing with Emily Armstrong. Her parents were Sea Org members. I'm still unclear. I don't know 100% if her father passed away or not, but her mother is still alive and in the Sea organization. And her name is Gail Armstrong. And she has been in the Sea organization for decades. I mean, since Emily was born. Emily was born into the Sea Org, was in the cadet organization in Scientology, in the Sea organization. Now let's take a look at we're going to look at a couple of clips here. We're going to talk about this because I've got a little bit different take on this. And I'm thinking there might be some things about the Sea organization and Emily Armstrong's mother that Emily herself might not even know. She may not know what happened to her mother in the hole. And we're going to talk about what the hole is and what happened there. And if Emily Armstrong is not willing to step forward and disavow Scientology, or if she's still a practicing Scientologist, but is not saying just whatever that is. If Danny Masterson, what happened when she's being accused of attacking the victims of Danny Masterson, all of those things aren't enough. That's not enough for her to step up and go, hey, I've got nothing to do with this. I do not support Scientology. I do not support these things. Maybe what happened to her mother, maybe that will make her step up, because I don't think she knows. I don't. Why do I not think she knows? As someone who was in the Sea organization and kept many secrets from my family about the truth about Scientology and the Sea organization, I can totally see how it would happen. There were things that I did not share with my family that were incredibly traumatic and occurred in the Sea organization until I was leaving Scientology. I mean, like 20 years. I kept these things a secret as I was indoctrinated to do. So let's take a look at this, and we're going to talk more about that. And specifically, we're going to get into what happened to her mother in the Sea Org.
If you follow Cedric on social media, especially Instagram, you are aware of the fact that over the course of the Masterson trial, him and his partner were very loud, very vocal about his allegations. Chrissy Carnell Bixler had dated Masterson at one point and stood as one of his accusers. So yeah, now, of course, in the wake of Emily Armstrong joining Lincoln Park, Cedric is being very loud and very vocal about this history, not only about her support of Masterson, but maybe more importantly, her connections to Scientology, which in recent years has very much been exposed as, you know, not just some kind of silly, harmless, cultish religion that just believes in silly alien stuff, but also a very strange and shadowy organization that uses a myriad of different tactics, including abuse, to control some of its members.
Very true. So one thing that I wanted to point out here is, as this news continues to come out and people are talking about it, a whole new demographic of people are being introduced to the abuses within Scientology. So you might even say, I would even go as far as saying that Emily Armstrong joining Lincoln Park, I think, is going to expose Scientology in a way into a whole new group of people that had been unaware about it before. And this is the part that I think Scientology themselves are missing. I'm sure they were sitting there thinking, ooh, yay, let's get these celebrities in like Tom Cruise, and then we can recruit for Scientology. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're going to get pushback. You're going to get people going, whoa, 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 wait a minute. We know about these abuses within Scientology, and we are not down with that. This is what's going to happen, and we're seeing it happen already over and over again. And now you even have Chester's son speaking out. We're going to look at a clip from JD DeLay, who does a great job rounding things out in a really kind of, I like the way that he does it. This clip is kind of fun because he actually clips Aaron at growing up in Scientology and shares it in his clip. So we're going to look at a clip of him looking at a clip of a clip.
So obviously the Church of Scientology is at the center of all of the controversy behind Lincoln Park choosing Emily Armstrong to be their new vocalist, taking the place of Chester Bennington. But I myself, even though I've researched a lot on the Church of Scientology, am not an expert, but I do know one. So I want to introduce you guys to A. Aaron from growing up in Scientology and let you hear what he has to say about Scientology and this situation with Emily Armstrong.
Scientology is a multi-billion-dollar family-destroying international human trafficking cult.
I think that it's really important to acknowledge that Chester Bennington himself was a childhood sexual assault survivor. So replacing him in this band with somebody who is a hardcore cultist member that is an organization that is synonymous with human trafficking and sexual assault, suppressing victims' ability to be able to come forward about what's been done to them, it's not only disgusting, it's like spitting in Chester's face.
This is true. And this does seem to be the biggest part of the backlash about this, is it's not just about her background with Scientology. It's what that band stood for. And I mean, I agree. These two things just do not go together. And the only way that this is going to be resolved in my mind is if Emily herself comes forward and makes an actual real statement, has an actual conversation about it. I honestly think it's going to take her denouncing or disavowing Scientology to make this right. It's the only way. I don't see a way around it. I don't see fans of Lincoln Park just sitting back and going, yeah, let's just see how this plays out. I don't. So it's going to be interesting with what happens. And the more and more things come out about this, the more, again, a whole new genre of people are going to learn about it, because Emily's parents are in the Sea organization. Again, I don't know if her dad is still with us or not, but her mother, Gail, isn't still in the Sea Org, worked directly with David Miscavige, was in the Office of Special Affairs, worked as a speechwriter, and was in the hole. And we're going to get to that, because this is the thing I think Emily doesn't know. Because her mother, if she's being a good Sea Org member, would never tell her daughter about the abuses she suffered at the hands of David Miscavige at the International Scientology Management Base. So let's take a look at this clip. This is from Growing Up in Scientology, and this is talking about Chester's son responding to what's happening.
Chester's son said, "Hey, Mike, people aren't having a difficult time wrapping their head around the prospect of Lincoln Park reinventing itself. They're having a hard time wrapping their head around how you hired your friend of many years, Emily Armstrong, to replace Chester, knowing Emily's history in Scientology and her history as an ally to Danny Masterson. Quietly erasing my father's life and legacy in real time during International Suicide Prevention Month and refusing to acknowledge the impact of hiring someone like Emily."
Yep. That's the thing. You can't, I think what they're hoping is going to happen is this is just going to blow over, that if they just say nothing about it, that it's just going to quiet down. That's not going to happen. People today know so much more about cults and about human trafficking, and they're not going to sit back, especially with a band like Linkin Park, and just let it play out and see what happens. It is just not going to happen that way. Let's take a look now at this from the viewpoint of a therapist, because there's a therapist here on YouTube that weighed in about this, and I thought she made a really interesting point. Let's give this a listen.
It's the wrong person. There are people who would be open to a new sound, a new start, but after investigating Emily and her past, they feel like her character doesn't stand up against Chester and his legacy, and it's actually dishonoring to him to have her as the new vocalist. There are comments going all around the internet about Emily being a Scientologist and a supporter of a rapist. What they're talking about is a couple of things. She was seen at a gala, a Scientology gala with Cedric, who also has been posting comments about how she is a Scientologist and a rape apologist on his Instagram. The rape apologist statements are coming from her involvement with Danny Masterson, who is currently in prison for 2 charges of sexual assault. If these things are true, it makes a lot of sense why people would be upset, because they dishonor Chester's legacy and his story.
Very true. Very true. So let's get back to talking about Emily Armstrong's mother and what happened with her. And I'm going to share a couple of things with you here. Let's see if I want to get too far behind in the comments here. Let's see. Wendy City, Think and Watch, would Nancy Cartwright donate that amount were it not tax exempt? That's a great question. Absolutely. Amber says Emily must have been at the Gold Cadet Org. You know, I'm not sure if it was Gold or at PAC. Gail Armstrong was a subject of spy files where she was KR'd, so knowledge report snitched on about speeches she wrote for Miscavige on the Freewinds. That is very true. That is very true. So let's also take a look at this. And here's the thing. I hope that this message, especially this part that I'm about to get into, gets shared with Emily Armstrong, because she may not know this. Let's take a look right out of Mike Rinder's book, who wrote about the whole. Because Emily, you might not know this. This was your mother's experience. And again, this is from A Billion Years. The remainder of the building consisted of smaller offices. There were men's and women's bathrooms, but no showers. So the Scientology executives were put into this double-wide trailer, right? We slept on the floor or under desks in sleeping bags with whatever we could find to serve as a pillow. We ate at desks and around the conference room tables. Our meals, and meals is in quotes, consisted of cold leftovers from the main dining room delivered on large trays. Sometimes the menu had been less appealing to those in the dining room, so there were more leftovers. Other times there was not enough left to go around for us in the whole. So we all ate small portions or subsisted on white rice and boiled beans. Every couple of days, security guards escorted the women through a tunnel under Highway 79 to a shower room in a large garage. And when they returned, it would be the men's turn. There were 5 shower stalls, and everyone was expected to take no longer than 30 seconds, just like on the Apollo. And the Apollo was the ship that L. Ron Hubbard was on when he was running away from the authorities. When we were first routed to the hole, we had only whatever clothes we had been wearing. But eventually each person was issued 2 dark blue t-shirts and 2 pairs of shorts, which were washed every few days. Personal hygiene was not easy to maintain in these circumstances, with so many people sleeping, eating, and working in a confined space. The odor was palpable, but there was nothing that could be done about it, so we pretended it wasn't a problem. This is not even the worst of it, okay? But this is, Emily, this is what your mother experienced by this church, by Scientology. They did daily confessions because David Miscavige said that, hey, all these people, these international executives, they have crimes against him, against Scientology, and they needed to find out what those were. So that's why they were locked in these double wide trailers. These daily confession sessions, Miscavige took to calling them seances in the hole, typically began with someone making an accusation that a person had not come clean and was withholding their crimes. If the accused didn't provide a satisfactory answer, they would be told to stand up. More people would join in demanding compliance. If nothing was forthcoming, someone might get in their face and begin screaming at them and threatening to give them a black eye. This stems from a favorite line in a Hubbard policy letter stating that if anyone strayed from the righteous path, then other members could give them a black eye. And sometimes, more frequently as the days and weeks passed, it developed into physical altercations and even torture tactics. This is what happened in the hole. There's so much more. There have been multiple books written about this. This is a place where reports are saying Emily's mother was. Do you know about this, Emily Armstrong? Are you aware about this? This is something that happened to your mother. So there's more, there goes more into it. Here is where I don't know if she knows or doesn't know this. So David Miscavige had a couple of favorites that he liked to pick on. 2 of his favorite targets were LeServe and Yeager, the highest officials in Church of Scientology International. Debbie is Debbie Cook. She is the only person on the record in a law case who spilled the beans about the whole. Let's see. Miscavige often spoke in the most vulgar and explicitly sexual manner, and he frequently accused people of engaging in various sex acts in graphic detail. I don't know if his proclivity for sexual talk gave him a sort of odd gratification, if it was a way of demeaning people to ensure they understood who was boss, if he wanted to create a shock and awe scene, or all of the above. But in keeping with the fundamental teachings of Hubbard, who said that homosexuality could only be cured by auditing or by removing them from society quietly and without sorrow. And that part is in quotes, because that's what L. Ron Hubbard said. Do it, quote, quietly and without sorrow. Many of Miscavige's slurs and insults were homophobic. 2 of his favorite targets were LeServe and Yeager, the highest officials in Church of Scientology International. Debbie refused to say what they had done, what Miscavige was claiming, as there had been no such admission. Miscavige was basically accusing them of having a homosexual relationship, which, per all reports, they were not. This was just his way of demeaning and embarrassing them. In typical fashion, he accused her of lying in front of a room full of people in the hole. And when she responded with a denial, he told the crowd, I don't have time to waste listening to her lies. You had better get the confession out of her. So what ended up happening to Debbie Cook, since she would not agree with Miscavige's claim, because she wasn't going to say, hey, yeah, these 2 guys were having a homosexual affair when they were not. She refused to do that. And because she refused, Debbie must have had a similar transgression herself. The heinous crime of being a lesbian. This logic stemmed from Hubbard's teaching that if you felt someone's bad actions were reasonable or justified, it was because you have similar overts of your own. As a result, Debbie, who was happily married to her husband, who had been left in Clearwater when she was brought to the base, was forced to stand for hours in a garbage can with a sign around her neck that read lesbian, while insults were hurled at her and water was poured over her head. This is what was happening in the hole where Emily Armstrong's mother was. So she knew. Does Emily know any of this? I don't know. I have no idea. I doubt it. I really, really, really doubt it. I highly doubt it. In fact, I find it almost impossible to believe that she does. So if what Emily knows about Danny Masterson, about what she's being accused of attacking the victims of Danny Masterson, if those aren't reasons enough to denounce Scientology and disavow Scientology, what about what happened to your mother? What about the secrets your mom is keeping that she is not even telling you about the abuse that has been inflicted upon her and other Sea Org members for decades in the Sea Org? And you're never going to know from her the truth unless she leaves. My hope in all of this is it forces her to leave. I don't see how, with all the press that Emily Armstrong is getting, that her mom is going to be, kept in the good graces of David Miscavige or still be working directly with him. I mean, I don't know, but the truth is coming out. And these are things that Emily Armstrong and Lincoln Park cannot hide from, because people have a ton of questions about this and want to know where they stand on it. See reason, how is tolerating and being quiet about all the abuse by David Miscavige and Scientology clearing the planet? Exactly, it's not. As Scientologists, we were indoctrinated to believe that we needed to protect Scientology at all costs. At all costs, even if that meant lying about Scientology, lying for Scientology. Those were called acceptable truths or shore stories, things that we were told we were allowed to say because the reality of it would be too much for the public, too much for the non-Scientologists to handle. Of course it would be, because they never would have tolerated it. They were not indoctrinated to withstand these abuses the way that we were. People never in Scientology look at this and right away are disgusted by it. Many of us who grew up in Scientology or grew up in the Sea Organization were in the Sea Organization as adults. It was normalized. And this is the beautiful thing about having so many people never in Scientology standing up and saying, I'm not standing for this anymore. I'm going to help elevate these voices of the victims of Scientology, the children who were the victims of Scientology, and make it known. And this is an opportunity for Emily Armstrong to step forward and stand up for these people and speak out against and disavow this church, this religion, who has continued for decades as a human trafficking cult. Let's see. Hey, Blow Drill. It seems there's a lot more leniency with public and staff, maybe because the numbers are so low. Oh, for sure. For sure. But they can't help themselves for long. No, they can't. I don't think that they can. All right, this is what I got for you guys for now. If you could all hit that like button and hit subscribe as well, because I'm going to be on again later, probably doing another video. We're going to keep talking about this. Let me know if you're catching this on the replay. Jump into the chat in the comments. I want to know what you think about all of this. Where do you think it's going to go? What are the questions that you would like Emily Armstrong and Lincoln Park to be answering? I want to hear it. In the meantime, I hope everybody gets out and has an amazing cult-free day.